little tough at the beginning, remember?
Mm-hmm.
He said, I have a red button on my desk. I said, I have a red button also, but mine's bigger than yours and mine works.
Trump used to joke about Kim's nukes, but not anymore. Kim just showed off a new nuclear invention that's got Trump seriously freaked out. And once you see what this new weapon can actually do, you'll understand why. The Hwasong 20 emerges. October 10th, 2025, Pyongyang. Rain hammers down on Kim Il-sung Square as thousands of soldiers march in perfect formation, their boots splashing through puddles that reflect the glow of spotlights cutting through the darkness. This isn't just any military parade, it's the 80th anniversary of the Workers' Party of Korea, and Kim Jong-un has invited some very particular guests to witness what comes next. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev sits in the viewing stand alongside Chinese Premier Li Qiang. Their presence isn't coincidental, it's a calculated message about shifting global alliances. And then, rumbling through the square on an enormous 11-axle transporter erector launcher, comes the reason they're all here, the Hwasong 20. State media immediately brands it as North Korea's most powerful nuclear strategic weapon system, and the specifications that analysts piece together in the following hours paint a troubling picture. This isn't just another missile. It's a solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile with an estimated range exceeding 15,000 kilometers, enough to strike any point on the US mainland, including cities on the East Coast that previous North Korean missiles couldn't reliably threaten. But range is just the beginning of what makes the Hwasong 20 different. The real game changer lies in what it might carry. Analysts suspect the missile is designed to deploy multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, MIRVs. Think of it this way. Instead of one missile carrying one nuclear warhead to one target, a single Hwasong 20 could potentially release several warheads, each capable of hitting a different city or military installation. It's the difference between knocking on one door and knocking on 5 doors simultaneously, except each knock is a nuclear explosion. The technology isn't new to the Nuclear Powers Club. The United States, Russia, China, Britain, they've all had MIRV capabilities for decades. But North Korea joining that club fundamentally changes the calculus of deterrence and defense. The US ground-based mid-course defense system is designed to intercept a limited number of incoming missiles. When one missile can become 5 or 6 separate targets, mid-flight, suddenly that defense system looks a lot less reassuring. The Hwasong 20's solid fuel engine makes it even more formidable. Unlike liquid-fueled missiles that require hours of preparation and fueling, time during which satellites can spot the activity, solid fuel missiles can launch within minutes. They're mobile, harder to detect, and far more survivable in a first-strike scenario. North Korea had been working toward this for years, but successful ground tests in September 2025 of high-thrust solid fuel engines using composite carbon fiber represented a major breakthrough. And here's where the story gets more complicated. South Korean military officials, including Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Jin Yong-sung, have speculated about Russian engineering influence in the Hwasong 20's development. It's not just speculation born from paranoia. North Korea and Russia have grown significantly closer since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, with a comprehensive strategic partnership treaty signed in June 2024 that includes provisions for cooperation in nuclear energy and space technology, terms that nuclear experts read as potential cover for weapons collaboration. Reports suggest North Korea has supplied Russia with millions of artillery shells and over 100 ballistic missiles for use in Ukraine, and approximately 11,000 North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia by March 2025. In exchange, North Korea appears to be receiving more than just food and fuel. The design similarities between the Hwasong 20 and Russian MIRV-capable systems like the RS-24 Yars have caught the attention of defense analysts worldwide. But despite all the technological advances on display that rainy October night, there's a crucial detail that often gets lost in the alarming headlines. The Hwasong 20 remains completely untested as of October 23, 2025. Analysts predict a test launch could come before year's end, but until then, much of what we think we know about its capabilities remains educated guesswork based on design analysis and North Korean claims. North Korea's nuclear program didn't appear overnight, of course. Kim Jong-un has been methodically building toward this moment since he took power in 2011. In 2025 alone, the International Atomic Energy Agency reported construction of a new annex at the Kangsan facility near Pyongyang, likely for additional uranium enrichment centrifuges. Estimates now suggest North Korea possesses enough plutonium and highly enriched uranium for 50 to 90 nuclear devices, with production capacity growing. The strategy Kim has pursued is what he calls exponential nuclear nuclear expansion. Not just more warheads, but more diverse delivery systems. Beyond ICBMs, North Korea is developing tactical nuclear warheads for cruise missiles, hypersonic glide vehicles, and even unmanned underwater vehicles. It's a comprehensive deterrent designed to make any potential military action against North Korea unthinkably costly. North Korea has also enshrined its nuclear status in its constitution, formally rejecting any path to denuclearization. This isn't just rhetoric, it's a fundamental shift in how Pyongyang views these weapons. They're no longer bargaining chips to trade for sanctions relief or security guarantees. They're permanent fixtures of North Korean security policy, what Kim sees as the ultimate guarantee of regime survival. So when those 11 Axels rolled that massive missile through Kim Il-sung Square, they weren't just showing off a new weapon, they were broadcasting a message. North Korea has arrived as a nuclear power, and it's not going back. The parade featured other systems too: long-range strategic cruise missiles, drone launchers, and short-range ballistic missiles fitted with hypersonic glide vehicles, capabilities that North Korea demonstrated just days later on October 22, 2025, in what Pyongyang called a test of its hypersonic nuclear deterrent. The timing of all this isn't random either. These developments are unfolding during Donald Trump's second term as US president, and the history between Trump and Kim Jong-un adds layers of complexity that make this moment particularly fascinating. Because unlike previous US presidents who maintained careful distance from North Korean leaders, Trump actually sat down with Kim 3 times. They exchanged letters. They developed what Trump called a relationship. And that complicated personal history is about to collide with this new nuclear reality in ways that will surprise everyone who thinks they know how this story ends. Trump's nuclear diplomacy. The relationship between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un might be one of the strangest diplomatic sagas in modern American history. It started with threats that genuinely worried people about nuclear war, evolved into unprecedented face-to-face meetings, and ended with Trump claiming they fell in love through letters. And now, with the Hwasong 20 on the world stage and Trump back in the White House, everyone's wondering what comes next.
I liked how you called him Little Rocket Man.
I said, yeah, Little Rocket. I said, Little Rocket Man, you're going to burn in hell. And it was a rough...
Yeah.
Oh, so rough that people were worried. This is crazy.
That was Trump reflecting on the early days, 2017, when he and Kim traded increasingly alarming threats. Trump's fire and fury warning and references to his nuclear button being bigger than Kim's weren't just tough talk. North Korea was conducting nuclear tests and launching ICBMs over Japan. The situation felt genuinely dangerous in a way it hadn't since the Cold War. But then something shifted. During the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea, Kim sent his sister with overtures toward dialogue. South Korean President Moon Jae-in became a crucial intermediary, and suddenly the impossible seemed possible. A sitting US president meeting with a North Korean leader for the first time in history. Singapore, June 12, 2018. The images were extraordinary. Trump and Kim shaking hands, walking together, sitting across from each other at the negotiating table. They signed a joint statement where Kim committed to complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula in exchange for security guarantees from the United States. It was vague, arguably too vague, but it represented a breakthrough simply by happening. Trump returned declaring victory, claiming North Korea was no longer a nuclear threat, a claim that looks particularly optimistic in hindsight given what we now know about North Korea's continued weapons development. But in fairness, North Korea did halt nuclear and long-range missile tests for 17 months following Singapore, which represented real progress, even if it proved temporary. The second summit came in Hanoi, February 2019, and this is where the diplomatic momentum hit a wall. North Korea offered to dismantle its Yongbyon nuclear facility, a significant site but not their only one, in exchange for lifting major economic sanctions. Trump, pushed by advisors who saw this as insufficient, walked away without a deal. The summit ended abruptly, with both sides clearly disappointed. It could have ended there, the diplomatic window closing as quickly as it had opened, but Trump wasn't done. 4 months later came the moment that really captures the unique nature of this relationship.
Would you like me to step across?
사각에서 한 발자국 건너시면 사상 처음으로 우리 땅을 밟으시는 미국 대통령이 되십니다.
If Your Excellency
I'm
take
okay
a
with
step
it.
forward, you will be the
I'd be
first
very
US president
proud.
to cross
I'd be
this
very
line.
proud to do that. Okay.
June 30th, 2019, at the demilitarized zone, Trump became the first sitting US president to step into North Korean territory, crossing the military demarcation line at Panmunjom for about 1 minute before returning to the South Korean side with Kim. It wasn't a full summit. The meeting lasted roughly 50 minutes, but it was pure Trump, spontaneous, symbolic, and designed for maximum maximum visual impact. Trump had tweeted the invitation just a day earlier, writing, "If Chairman Kim of North Korea sees this, I would meet him at the border DMZ just to shake his hand and say hello." Kim accepted, and the meeting was arranged with remarkable speed. They agreed to restart working-level negotiations and kept the door open for future progress, though no concrete breakthroughs emerged. What made Trump's approach so unusual wasn't just the meetings themselves, but the personal relationship he claimed to have developed. Trump says he and Kim exchanged over 24 letters, which he described as beautiful and love letters. He would show them at rallies. He praised Kim's leadership. He halted joint military exercises with South Korea that Kim found provocative, a significant concession that worried US military planners and allies. Critics argued Trump was being played, that Kim was using the summits to buy time for weapons development while gaining international legitimacy without making real concessions. And there's evidence supporting that view. North Korea's arsenal did continue growing during this period, particularly in short-range systems that threaten South Korea and Japan, even if they can't reach the United States. But supporters of Trump's approach point to what didn't happen. No nuclear tests, no ICBM launches, no escalating crisis spiral of the kind that had people genuinely worried about war in 2017. Trump believed personal relationships could break diplomatic logjams that decades of conventional approaches had failed to resolve. Whether that belief was naive or visionary remains hotly debated. By the time Trump left office in January 2021, the diplomatic process had stalled. North Korea resumed short-range missile tests in 2020, and the COVID-19 pandemic provided convenient cover for both sides to step back from engagement. The Biden administration took a more traditional approach, offering dialogue without preconditions but also without the personal outreach that characterized Trump's strategy. North Korea largely ignored these overtures, and by 2022 was conducting ballistic missile tests at a record pace, which brings us to 2025 and Trump's second term. Almost immediately after his January 20, 2025 inauguration, Trump signaled his intentions. In a January 21st speech, he referred to North Korea as a nuclear power and boasted about his wonderful relationship with Kim. The phrasing drew sharp rebukes from South Korea, which saw it as implicitly legitimizing North Korea's nuclear status, something the United States had consistently refused to do. But Trump was just getting started. On January 24th, he told Fox News he would reach out to Kim, emphasizing the value of maintaining rapport with a leader possessing a lot of nuclear weapons. By May 2025, Trump confirmed low-level communications were occurring between the US and North Korea, though he downplayed expectations for immediate breakthroughs. Throughout 2025, even as North Korea ramped up its weapons displays, Trump's rhetoric remained notably different from traditional presidential responses to nuclear provocations. In July, when Kim's sister Kim Yo-jong dismissed potential talks as mockery, the White House responded that Trump remains open to engaging with leader Kim to achieve a fully denuclearized North Korea, keeping the door open rather than responding with threats or condemnation. Trump has also touted US military advantages in ways designed to project confidence rather than alarm. In August 2025, he announced the Golden Dome Missile Defense Initiative, a satellite-based interceptor network designed to counter threats from North Korea, China, Iran, and Russia. North Korea called it a dangerous initiative that would spark a nuclear arms race, but Trump framed it as essential protection for American cities. At an October 2025 rally, Trump made cryptic references to secret US weapons he claimed to have initiated during his first term, a weapon that many don't even suspect. Whether these claims refer to hypersonic missiles, directed energy systems, or something else entirely remains unclear, but the message was deliberate. North Korea's advances don't frighten the United States because American military technology remains superior. And here's what makes the current moment so fascinating. Despite all the alarming coverage of the Hwasong-20 and North Korea's nuclear expansion, there are no public statements from Trump expressing fear, alarm, or intimidation regarding these developments. No tweets panicking about the new missile. No speeches warning of imminent danger. Just repeated signals that he's ready to talk, confident in US capabilities, and willing to resume the personal diplomacy that defined his first-term approach. The gap between sensational headlines, suggesting Trump is scared, and the actual reality of his measured, engagement-focused response couldn't be wider, which raises the obvious question. If Trump isn't panicking about the Hwasong-20, what is his actual strategy for dealing with a North Korea that has fundamentally changed since their last meeting? The new nuclear reality. The North Korea that Trump is dealing with in 2025 is not the North Korea he left behind in 2021, and pretending otherwise would be strategic malpractice. Analysts estimate North Korea now possesses material for 50 to 90 nuclear warheads, compared to roughly 30 to 40 at the end of Trump's first term. More importantly, the delivery systems have become dramatically more sophisticated and diverse. The Hwasong-20 is just the most visible example of this evolution. North Korea tested the solid-fuel Hwasong-19 in October 2024, which reached an apogee of 7,687 kilometers, higher than any previous North Korean test. In January 2025, they launched a hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missile with a glide vehicle that can maneuver unpredictably during flight, making interception far more difficult. Perhaps most significantly, North Korea conducted what it claimed was a test of Mayav separation technology in June 2024. South Korean and US officials disputed the claim, saying the booster failed mid-flight, but even an unsuccessful test demonstrates North Korea is seriously pursuing this capability. Experts estimate they're 2 to 5 years from operational MIRV deployment, potentially accelerated by Russian technical assistance. Understanding MIRVs is crucial to understanding why this matters so much. When a missile reaches the top of its trajectory in space, the post-boost vehicle, essentially a bus carrying multiple warheads, uses its own propulsion and guidance systems to release warheads on different trajectories. Each warhead then re-enters the atmosphere independently, traveling at speeds up to Mach 25, protected by heat-resistant capsules that prevent them from burning up. The strategic implications are profound. The US ground-based mid-course defense system has 44 interceptors designed to protect against limited ICBM attacks. If North Korea achieves operational MIRVs, a single missile could deploy 6 warheads plus decoys. Launch 5 MIRV-capable missiles and you're potentially looking at 30-plus objects that need to be tracked and intercepted. The math becomes very unfavorable very quickly for defenders. This is why Russia's apparent assistance to North Korea's missile program represents such a significant concern. The June 2024 Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty between Putin and Kim Jong-un includes provisions for cooperation in nuclear energy and space technology, language that non-proliferation experts recognize as potential cover for weapons collaboration. US intelligence assessments indicate Russia is expanding sharing of space, nuclear, and missile-applicable technology, expertise, and materials to North Korea. The quid pro quo seems clear enough. North Korea has supplied Russia with millions of artillery shells and over 100 ballistic missiles for use in Ukraine, along with approximately 11,000 troops deployed to Russian territory by March 2025. In return, North Korea receives financial support, food, energy supplies, and crucially, access to advanced military technology that could accelerate their weapons programs by years. South Korean military officials have specifically noted that the Hwasong-20's design features suggest Russian engineering influence, particularly in the transporter erector launcher and payload capacity. Reports from September 2025 even suggest Russia may have provided nuclear submarine modules to North Korea between January and June of that year, which would significantly enhance their second strike capabilities through submarine-launched ballistic missiles. All of this Russian assistance violates multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions that prohibit arms transfers and technical assistance to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs, resolutions that Russia itself supported from 2006 to 2017 but now actively undermines. Russia vetoed UN sanctions monitoring extensions in March 2024, effectively shielding North Korea from international scrutiny. So what is Trump's strategy for dealing with this fundamentally altered landscape? The evidence suggests he's pursuing a two-track approach, maintaining maximum military readiness and deterrence capability while keeping diplomatic channels open for potential negotiations. On the military side, Trump's Golden Dome initiative represents a significant investment in missile defense. The satellite-based interceptor concept would theoretically provide earlier detection and interception opportunities than ground-based systems. Trump has also repeatedly emphasized US military superiority, boasting about secret weapons and advanced capabilities that supposedly give the United States an edge even as adversaries advance their own systems. But it's the diplomatic track where Trump's approach diverges most sharply from conventional wisdom. Throughout 2025, Trump has signaled openness to re-engagement with Kim, even as critics argue this rewards North Korean weapons development. His January 2025 characterization of North Korea as a nuclear power wasn't a gaffe. It was an acknowledgement of reality that might represent the foundation for a new approach. Here's the strategic calculation that appears to be driving Trump's thinking. Complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization, the stated US policy goal for decades, is almost certainly unachievable. North Korea has made clear it will never willingly give up up its nuclear weapons, enshrining nuclear status in its constitution and repeatedly stating these weapons are non-negotiable. Kim Jong-un has watched what happened to leaders who gave up nuclear programs, like Libya's Gaddafi, and drawn clear lessons about the value of nuclear deterrence. So if complete denuclearization is off the table, what's achievable? Some analysts suggest Trump might pursue a more modest deal, capping North Korea's ICBM force while accepting some nuclear retention, particularly shorter-range systems. This would reduce the direct threat to the US homeland, while acknowledging that North Korea will maintain some nuclear capability. It's not an ideal outcome, but in dealing with nuclear-armed adversaries, ideal outcomes are rarely available. The personal relationship Trump claims to have built with Kim becomes potentially valuable in this context. Traditional diplomatic approaches through formal channels have consistently failed with North Korea for decades. The country's extreme isolation and the Kim regime's paranoia make conventional negotiations extraordinarily difficult, but Trump's willingness to engage directly, to treat Kim with respect on the world stage, and to pursue unconventional diplomatic methods might open possibilities that wouldn't exist otherwise. Kim Jong-un has conditioned any future talks on the United States, dropping denuclearization demands and accepting North Korea as a nuclear state. His sister Kim Yo-jong has been explicit about this, stating that any engagement must accept North Korea's new nuclear reality. This puts Trump in a difficult position. Accepting these preconditions would enrage hawks in Washington and allies in Seoul and Tokyo who see it as capitulation. But the alternative might be worse. Without any diplomatic engagement, North Korea will continue expanding its arsenal unchecked. More warheads, more delivery systems, more sophisticated technology potentially aided by Russia and China. The threat grows regardless of whether the US acknowledges it. At least engagement offers some possibility of establishing guardrails, communication channels to prevent miscalculation, potential limits on testing or deployment, mechanisms to reduce tension during crises. Trump's discussions about potentially meeting Kim during his October 2025 visit to South Korea for the APEC summit suggest he's actively considering another direct meeting. Whether one actually occurs depends on numerous factors, including what North Korea might be willing to put on the table and what concessions the US would need to make to get Kim to the negotiating table. The Hwasong 20 unveiling itself might be viewed as part of North Korea's negotiating strategy, a demonstration of capability designed to strengthen their position before talks, rather than a rejection of talks altogether. North Korea tested short-range ballistic missiles on October 22, 2025, just days before Trump's Asia visit. This follows a familiar pattern where North Korea conducts provocative tests to gain leverage and attention before potential negotiations. What's notably absent from Trump's response to all these developments is panic or fear, the very emotions that sensationalized headlines tried to project onto him. His actual statements and policy signals suggest a leader who believes North Korea's advances, while serious, don't fundamentally alter his approach. He maintains that US military capabilities remain superior, that deterrence is credible, and that personal diplomacy offers the best path forward even if it produces imperfect outcomes. This confidence, whether justified or overconfident, stems partly from the massive disparity in nuclear arsenals. The United States maintains over 1,470 deployed nuclear warheads on sophisticated delivery systems backed by the world's most advanced conventional military. North Korea's arsenal, even with 50 to 90 warheads and improving missiles, represents a fraction of US capability. The risk North Korea poses is less about winning a nuclear war and more about the catastrophic humanitarian cost even a limited nuclear exchange would cause, which means managing North Korea isn't about defeating them militarily. Any conflict would be devastating regardless of who won. It's about preventing conflict through deterrence and, if possible, reducing the threat through negotiation. Trump's bet is that his personal approach to Kim, combined with demonstrated US strength, creates the best chance of achieving that goal even if it means accepting uncomfortable realities about North Korea's nuclear status. Whether this strategy will succeed remains to be seen. The variables are complex. Russia's ongoing support for North Korea, China's calculations about regional stability, South Korean and Japanese concerns about being left vulnerable, the technical progress of North Korea's weapons programs, and Kim Jong-un's own strategic calculations about what he needs for regime security. But one thing is clear as we navigate this fraught moment: the relationship between Trump and Kim, forged through those unprecedented meetings in Singapore, Hanoi, and the DMZ, creates diplomatic possibilities that wouldn't exist with any other American president. Whether those possibilities lead somewhere productive or prove to be an illusion masking continued North Korean weapons development is the question that will define this chapter of nuclear diplomacy.